lecture is focused on Chapter 1, Food Choices and Human Health. Clearly, if you've looked at the chapter, you've noticed that there's a lot of information in simply Chapter 1, never mind the remainder of the book. I'm hoping to highlight some of the things that I think are most important in this chapter to give you a little bit more food for thought and a little bit of my perspective from clinical practice. I want to begin first with talking about the challenge of choosing foods. We know that there's countless new products on grocery shelves every day. We also know that there's so much information out there, sometimes we're overwhelmed with what we even need to choose. We often might ask the question, what foods are healthy? And we might be surprised by the answer I'm about to give you. I like to think that foods are nutritious, that they are not healthy. If we think about it, foods can promote health. They can be more or less nutritious, but food specifically doesn't cause health. As we've looked at genetics, as we've looked at other behaviors in the beginning of this chapter, we can see that nutrition is just a piece of overall health. So that's one thing to think about. Are foods nutritious? And should we choose more nutritious foods most of the time? The answer to that is yes, and that's where we're looking at our whole foods, our vegetables, our fruits, our meats, our milk, our grains, the ones that will provide us with the most nutrients to, again, promote health. The difficulty with trying to single out the most health-promoting foods or most nutritious foods is that almost every naturally occurring food, even chocolate, is functional in some way with regard to human health. The extent to which foods support good health depends on the calories, the nutrients, and the phytochemicals that these foods contain. So in short, to select a great choice amongst foods, you need to know more than simply their names or even what it might say in the front of the box. You need to know about their inner qualities. Even more important, we have to note that foods don't act alone. We eat foods together in combination, and a variety of foods makes up a nutritious diet. So they may not be nutritious on their own. Their value may need to be considered along with how it contributes with other foods to a nutritious diet. When we're thinking about a nutritious diet in total, we want to consider a few different things. We want to consider adequacy, balance, calorie control, moderation, and variety. So let me break these down a little bit more for you. When we think about adequacy, what we want to think about is getting enough of the essential nutrients. So that's our carbohydrates, our fat, our protein, our vitamins, our minerals, our water, as well as fiber found in the foods that provide those essential nutrients, and energy, again, found in those foods. We want to make sure we're getting a balance, making sure that our plan contains a good proportion of nutrients, that we're not overemphasizing a food group or eliminating another food group or nutrient. In thinking about calorie control, the idea here is that we want to choose foods and energy intakes from foods that balance our energy expenditure required for our body functions. We want to make sure that we fuel our body for what we're asking it to do without over-consuming and without under-consuming. We often think that calorie control is simply making sure we don't eat too much. In fact, oftentimes it's making sure we eat enough. So therefore, energy intake should not exceed or fall short of energy needs. We also want to think about moderation. This is in which we can eat any variety of foods in reasonable size portions. And again, with this, it's not elimination or abstinence of a food. It's that we're allowing this food at different points in time in a reasonable sized portion. As I mentioned about the chocolate, so chocolate we often consider as a food that maybe we shouldn't eat that often. Well, chocolate is still providing desirable food constituents in the phytochemicals that it's providing. In moderation as well, one thing to think about is that we also have to moderate foods that we consider most nutritious. One example would be the amount of fiber that we're consuming. If we overconsume fiber from food, it can potentially limit the absorption of some nutrients. So we want to consume enough fiber, but if we overconsume it, that may be for our health. Finally, we want to think about variety, eating a variety of different types of food to prevent boredom and to ensure that we're getting the adequacy that we already talked about. A varied diet is more likely to be adequate in nutrients, and if we do consume an undesirable compound in one food, say mercury in a piece of fish or alcohol, this ends up being diluted by all the other foods eaten with it, and then further diluted if the food is not eaten again for several days. Finally, variety adds interest, and if we try new foods, we can get a wider range of nutrients, and food also as a source of pleasure can be enhanced. So talking about foods as a source of pleasure, that's one reason why we eat. We know that eating is an intentional act. We have to make decisions about food every day. We know that there's cultural and social meanings of foods. There's traditional cuisines. There's certain dishes we might associate with celebrations. There's certain foods we might not eat because of our culture or even sometimes our moral obligation or moral beliefs. And when we're thinking about additional reasons as to why we're choosing foods, we don't really think about the other factors. That might include what's been advertised, what's available, how food costs, the emotional comfort we might seek from food, habit, personal preference, genetic inheritance to food that we might like, positive or negative associations with food, the region of the country we live in, that greatly impacts the type of food we're choosing. Our social norms, our values or beliefs, again, as we mentioned, and nutrition and health benefits of the food.